there's other things can be classified and they're pretty innocuous, but not operational planning like this for a major military operation. So yes, absolutely is classified, and I think flight times is the most classified.
Let's look at those reports that the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared classified information. Well, it was said to be classified sensitive information about airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen. Second time this happened. First time Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor at the White House, he was the one who was said to be behind what had gone on. Now, though, the White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she was answering questions on this second example, talking to Fox News this morning.
The president stands strongly behind Secretary Hegseth, who is doing a phenomenal job leading the Pentagon. And this is what happens when the entire Pentagon is working against you and working against the monumental change that you are trying to implement. Secretary Hegseth was nominated for this position because he is standing up for the war fighter, the men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line to protect our country and our homeland. And unfortunately, there have been people at that building who don't like the change the secretary is trying to bring, so they are leaking and they are lying to the mainstream media. We've seen this game played before. The secretary is doing a tremendous job, and the president stands strongly behind him.
So that's the sound of White House wagons being circled protectively around the defense secretary. Just in the last half hour, President Trump was asked about this while involved in the annual White House Easter egg roll.
Are you bringing up Signal again? I thought they gave that up 2 weeks ago.
There was a new report this weekend that you used it in a separate chat that included some family members.
It's all just the same old stuff from the media. That's an old one. Try finding something new.
So let's talk to Jim Townsend, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Defense for Europe and for NATO. Hello to you, Jim.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Thank you for rejoining us. When you heard the president there, same old stuff, find something new, just didn't seem remotely ruffled about this. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's, the Pentagon was described in meltdown by one of the Trump aides who used to work there and was shoved out the door. 3 others left after him, being accused of leaking. They have since written an op-ed in Politico, I believe it was, saying that they were unfairly treated. And it's just been crazy there at the Pentagon. Right now, the Secretary of Defense doesn't have a deputy chief of staff. He doesn't have his close advisor is gone. The deputy secretary of defense has lost his chief of staff. So there's home alone for Hegseth and his front office there in the Pentagon. So, it's chaos there.
Right. So the White House press secretary and the president, they're backing this up, is arguing that nothing classified was leaked. Now, from what we read, we're talking about detailed flight plans for American Hornet warplanes on their way to attack Yemen. I mean, can that be described as anything but classified?
It's highly classified. Operational plans of the military are probably the most classified things in terms of being protected and having to have a need to know, to look at those things. There's other things can be classified and they're pretty innocuous, but not operational planning like this for a major military operation. So yes, absolutely is classified. And I think flight times is the most classified, because that gives your opposition the heads up of when aircraft will be in their airspace, sitting ducks for the air defense. So it's absolutely classified.
Okay, so this material was apparently sent to the Defense Secretary's wife and lawyer, who had no business having this information, but it does seem he has the protection of the president. Now, look, let me ask you about something else. In Ukraine, do you believe it's possible that the administration might fully disengage from the war in Ukraine? Just put itself away from the defense of Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely. I think certainly that's an option they must be discussing right now, that if there's nothing that's going to come their way in terms of even a partial ceasefire, no sign coming out of Moscow that the Russians are interested, Putin's interested in talking. He's more interested in bombing cities in Ukraine. If that's the state of play, I think Trump is going to be frustrated. I think he wants to move on to other things, and he's going to disengage. I don't see him turning around and saying, okay, we're going to arm Ukraine to the teeth. He doesn't like Zelensky. He's been talking against what Zelensky has been doing in Ukraine for years. That's not a move I see him making. He's going to walk away in frustration.
And when you say disengage, then do you imagine we could see the president again for the second time deny Ukraine American intelligence, deny Ukraine military aid and supplies, because that would gift Ukraine or the war to Putin, many would say.
That's absolutely right. And I think that certainly could be in the cards. What we have not seen so far in the Trump administration is a Trump assistance plan for Ukraine. The assistance that Ukraine is getting from the United States now is left over from the Biden days. Biden's last few days in office, he delivered a lot of assistance to Ukraine, much of which is in the pipeline. There has not been a Trump assistance package since he took the oath of office. I don't think we're going to see necessarily a Trump plan to provide support. The intelligence has been continued. Once the pause had taken place, I think the intelligence had continued, but he could turn that off as well and blame Zelensky. I think that's the point here, is that if he's going to walk away frustrated, he's not going to blame Putin. He's going to blame Zelensky. Yeah. And he's going to want to keep his relationship with Putin at a place where he can do business with him.
Well, I guess the hope must be that this is another way of exerting pressure on, from the White House's point of view, pressure on President Zelensky to come to terms, to come to the table. And so he's threatening, as it were, that very, very grievous blow to Ukraine if Zelensky does not play ball. If it did come to it, do you think on Capitol Hill, Republicans on Capitol Hill would go along with that degree of abandonment of Ukraine?
Well, that's a really good point. And I'm afraid to say I think they would. I don't think all of them would. I think enough of them would move along with the president, so that if that's what the president desires, no further assistance, coming out of the U.S. pipeline to Ukraine, I think the Republicans would. There'd be others that might complain, but I think the majority would be with the president.
Okay, we're watching that very, very closely. This is from number 10 Downing Street, the office of the Prime Minister, who spoke to President Zelensky just this afternoon. It says the PM reiterated ironclad support for Ukraine, said Britain supports Ukraine's calls for Russia to commit to a full ceasefire, and that now was the time for Putin to show he's serious about ending his brutal war. So support for Britain, but from what you're saying, from what so many people are saying, that support just would not nearly be enough. Just lastly, and in a brief word, if I could, this talk now that America has ceased to be a reliable ally to its former friends and allies in the West, that the defense industries of this country and elsewhere are having to Trump-proof their production. How concerned are you about that?
I'm very concerned, and I'm heartbroken about that. This has all crumbled. This idea of being, of having faith in the United States, that's crumbled over the past couple of months, and it'll take a long time to rebuild. So it's something that I think strikes home at me personally. I spent so much of my life trying to build it, and seeing it crumble so quickly, it just is heartbreaking.